Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Debate Night. It has been a couple weeks. Hectic schedules this time of the year for the Foundation boys. Things have been crazy. I was away, and Hunter was scared of hosting. And then the week after that, we were abroad, except not super far abroad. We were still stateside, but we've been busy. So we're back, and things have happened. Things have progressed. And what is your skeptical look on your face?
I don't think you can say abroad.
We're in Florida. What?
Did you hear the next words that came out of my mouth? And I said, not really. We were still stateside. That's
Okay.
exact. Those are the
Yeah.
next
So
words
not
out of my
abroad,
mouth.
to be clear.
Abroad is not the correct word.
Out of the
Correct.
country.
That would mean
abroad.
leaving the country.
Correct.
I
Correct.
immediately addressed it.
Fair enough.
In
I
any
think
case,
technically Canada would still be abroad.
Yeah. Did you fly
Fair.
over international waters?
fair. Did not. Did not. In any case, things have happened on tour, and it's funny. We actually at the point now where we only have a few more weeks left of the debate night season, but we still have a good probably 3 more weeks after this until we get into the off season completely. Our last episode will be the week following. The Tuesday following the tour finale, the tour championship. So, we got some things to cover. We're going to go over some topics that transpired like right before our little hiatus and we didn't get to cover, and then also some that are more recent, some that kind of go over the whole season. So we got a little bit of a mixed bag, but we got great guests tonight, and Brodie is standing up.
Yeah. Oh, no. Officially after this week, me and Kelsey have made the decision that we will no longer be driving anywhere over, I believe, 3 hours. That is the official. Until I get like the car I have, like it's like a bucket seat, or I don't know technically what the terminology is for it, but it's not good. I'm starting to realize that I think maybe a lot of my lower back issues has to do with how my seat is. Because like if I sit like on a school bus, let's just say, where it's just like straight flat back, I can sit in that and like kind of move around a little bit and be fine. But I just think the way that like this makes my hip,
Dude, it traps you, bro. That happened to me. I had to buy a lower back support for my car. It wrecked me.
I have one. It still doesn't really help that much. But we did. We went to Florida actually, as well as we were in Florida at the same time as you guys for a little bit. Moose Man's never seen the beach, so it was time for him to see the beach. So we drove over. We did it in 2 days. The way there, and then on the way back, Kelsey's like, we cannot stay in another hotel with these dogs. We're doing it in 1 day. So we started at like 4:00 in the morning and got in at like 8 at night. So it was brutal. It was brutal. The back's feeling it a little bit, so that's why I'm standing today.
Yeah, fair enough. That is a long drive. Gary is here as well.
Never left, baby. Never left.
That's right. He's just been in the voice call.
He held it down for tour life 1 week. He's doing it.
Been sitting here.
That's right. And then Hannah is joining us tonight.
And I have audio this time, so
that's right.
Everything works.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. It was
so funny. Last time we had the show, Hannah's mic wasn't working, so she couldn't join us, and it was terrible because it was like the event that she was at. So yeah, it didn't work out, but audio is fixed. She's back. We can hear her for now, or at least she believes we can. We might just be saying this, anticipating what we think she's saying. She'll never know. And then Dustin is joining us to round out the cast.
Yeah, this will be my last week this season. After this, I'm out of the country for like a month. So this is it.
Really going abroad. Abroad.
Actually going abroad for
Yeah.
realsies.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's jump into things. This first topic is like really the only big thing that we missed, and it was a huge thing, or it really could be a huge thing, I guess I should say. And this was the Kristen Tatar situation. So obviously dropped that post giving us information that we expected to hear, or at least suspected, which was that she is taking a break for the rest of the season. But then she hit us with the idea that maybe she's done for good. So what I'm going to ask here is a question that I've seen floated around, which is if Kristen is done for sure, whether you think that likely or not, feel free to chime in on that. Is she the GOAT? Because like it seemed like we were going to have more years for her to continue solidifying that resume. We ask those hypothetical if so-and-so retired tomorrow questions, and it kind of happened in real life.
Yeah.
Like she just did the thing, maybe. So if so, if she is the GOAT, what does Paige need to do, assuming she'd be the next considered, in order to reclaim that status? Because all of a sudden, Paige Pierce is still playing disc golf, so could be regaining that potentially. Brodie, weigh in on that for us.
Yeah, so maybe I've been wrong about this the whole time, because I always thought the greatest of all time, the GOAT debate, I always thought you could have two different viewpoints on it. You could have the viewpoint that it's like the person that's been the most accomplished over the course of their career, or you could be on the other side of the fence and just be like, no, this person's talent supersedes everyone that we've seen before. And even though technically they haven't maybe gotten as many of the accomplishments over the course of, decades, they are the best we've ever seen. And that was kind of my argument with Kristen. Was Kristen doesn't have as many world championships as Paige. Kristen doesn't have as many majors as Paige. But the dominance that we saw from her and the play that we saw from her with Paige still in her prime years in the field made me believe like this is the greatest disc golfer we have seen in the FPO division, or at least I have seen. But doing a little research on this, the definition is the most accomplished and successful individual in history. And I kind of want to ask you guys, I think I'm going to go over my time a little bit, which is fine. Take my 6
This
points
is a tough
away.
question.
But I think the analogy is very interesting here. So I came up with 2 analogies. The first one is Usain Bolt. If Usain Bolt would have just showed up for 1 year, qualified for the Olympics, set the world record in the 100 meters, and was like, you know what? My time here is done. I'm out. I think we all would say that he's the greatest of all time because he has ran the fastest time ever. And even though he just did it once, he has the world record. No one has done it better, has ran that race better. But he hasn't done it over a course of a decade or a long career, right? However, if you look at the analogy in football, Tom Brady is the greatest of all time, or people claim that he's the greatest of all time. There's a couple other people that are in there. Most Super Bowl wins at 7, most Super Bowl MVPs at 5, numerous league records over the course of 23 seasons that he played in. So in a sport like that, you're looking at, you can't really just be like, oh, he had the greatest season of all time, he's the greatest ever. In football, it's more broad across the career. And so I'm leaning towards, I think disc golf isn't in the Usain Bolt, get the world record, no one else can say much about it. I think it's got to be more on the longevity side. So I think I'm actually switching. I think initially I was on the side of like, Kristen, I think, has the most talent we've ever seen. But if her career is over and it's that short period of time, I think down the road, looking back at it, I don't think she's going to match up when we're looking at world titles, major championships, and tournament wins.
Okay. All right. I mean, it certainly was a short career. I saw some looks from the other cast members. We'll see where they go. Gary, what do you think?
I think there's a lot of issues with the GOAT title. I mean, especially when we're talking about people who are still playing. And I know I say still playing because we don't really know for sure yet about Kristen. But as Americans, there are facets of living in a European country that we don't get, especially living close to Russia, because Russia did just recently violate Estonia's airspace regulations, which is kind of crazy. But I'm not going to tolerate like answers from people about like the GOAT of this era, GOAT of that era. Like it's disingenuous to the idea of greatest of all time because it's all time. For most people, it comes down to 3 arguments, which is like the greatest skill, like Brodie said, most accolades. Then you can kind of get into like strength of competition. Greatest skill is unquestionably Kristen. We've never seen someone with that level of consistency, diversity of talent. And the most accolades goes to Paige Pierce. Of course, I don't think any other FBO player is going to get to 17. So that means we have to look kind of a little bit at like strength of competition. Paige had to beat people like Katrina Allen, Sarah Hokum back in her prime, Valerie Jenkins. Kristen competed with a lot of the same people that Paige dealt with, minus Valerie, some newcomers, a growing FPO field. But right now, I can say that for me, Kristen Lott is the greatest talent FPO player that I've ever seen. And she's the GOAT for me. She's the greatest season ever in FPO history in 2023. But to Brodie's point, in 20 years, as we kind of zoom away from the modern era, provided no superstar rises up, Paige Pierce will look like the GOAT and be acknowledged as the GOAT. And Kristen will become the player they say, but you should have seen this person play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is going to be tough to hold up over time. Hannah, how do you see things?
Yes. So ever since I first saw Kristen come on the scene, and especially since 2023, I did consider her the GOAT. And the pedestal that myself and a bunch of other people put her on, I don't know that Paige can reach it. But I also don't know if we'll ever see anyone else in the future of FPO achieve what Kristen did in the time frame she did it in. Hunter was talking about it on Griplock the other week that we really only saw Kristen for like 2.5 full seasons. And so for her to have achieved everything that she did and have raised the bar as much as she did, not just by being the most skilled person we've seen in FPO, but the level of professionalism and the mindset and the awareness she brought to the game, the growth she brought to the game, I would argue she probably brought more growth to the sport of disc golf than anyone except for maybe Paul McBeth. Like, her reach has just been outstanding. And we see when other sports, the GOAT mindset in like Simone Biles or Serena Williams, or we saw it from Paige in the past, that like killer instinct. And I don't know if Kristen's ever had that. I don't think she set out in disc golf to be the best. I think she set out to do her best. And that's part of why she's the greatest, because her best was the best we've ever seen, at least up until this point, and might be the best we ever see. Who knows what the field will look like 5-10 years from now. So with all of her achievements and the time frame she did it, I think it's unmatched and it's incredibly impressive. And I don't think we'll see anyone reach that. Maybe Paige can regain the title if she wins a few more tournaments or another Worlds. I know she has that longevity and the more titles. But as far as total achievements in a period of time of a career, I think Kristen is a complete anomaly and she deserves the title right now.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. And yeah, her rise in popularity is certainly something to factor in as well, that she really did just take over the scene for a little bit there. Dustin, now you've heard kind of where everybody else is, where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's already kind of hit the nail on the head. It all comes down to whether or not you're just going to play the numbers game of who has the most accolades, who has the most trophies in the cabinet and majors and all that jazz, or are you going to look at it based on, I watched this person play, I saw what they were capable of, and I think that they're the greatest person I've ever seen play the game from like a skill-based standpoint. And if you're going to go the latter, yeah, Kristen is one of the rare players in FPO that has had a complete, well-rounded game. She has the backhand, she has the forehand, she has adequate distance, she could putt, she could be in the clutch. You know, she could come from behind. She could dominate. You know, she had one of the most dominant seasons we ever saw when she had the Grand Slam in 2023. So a lot of these things would point you to the fact that, you know, she was therefore the GOAT of FPO because of all these things she was able to do. People have already also mentioned that, you know, the things she did off the course, being an ambassador for the sport, bringing the exposure, being such an incredible person when it came to the wisdom that she shared in interviews and things of that nature. Like, she is just phenomenal in all aspects. But when you look at Paige Pierce, it's hard to argue against 5 world titles and 17 majors. And I think the other thing that people forget is that in at least 5, if I'm not mistaken, of those majors that Paige won, Kristen was in the field. You know, yes, Kristen didn't really start fully touring until like right before COVID. And obviously COVID, there was a break, and then she kind of came back 2022 and forward. But still, I mean, Paige was cranking out wins and majors while she was competing against Kristen, who we consider to be the other GOAT candidate besides Paige. So, yeah, I think if you're going accomplishments, you have to go Paige Pierce because her resume is unmatched right now from any other FPO athlete in the history of the sport. But when I sit back and say, man, who was the best player I ever watched play FPO disc golf? It was Kristen.
Yeah, I think the toughest thing will be like some of you mentioned, like zooming out, 10 years from now, the argument will get tougher for Kristen. However, you will always be able to, when you think about, the way we look at it in other sports, like it's numbers. You're not going to be able to say, well, you should have seen Kristen, how well-rounded her game is, because people won't care about that. They're going to look numbers. But if you want to look numbers, you can look at her dominant season and the wins, and then you can look and see Paige Pierce sitting right there in the field. So that will be the most compelling argument that people will have.
The other thing I was just going to add, someone's got really bad feedback, by the way. I'm not sure who that is. But the other thing, you're not? Oh, okay. Well, if you guys can't hear, it's fine.
Gary.
Gary. The other thing I was going to add is when you do zoom out as well, the one thing I don't think we're really talking about, and Gary mentioned, or Dustin mentioned it a little bit, like Kristen was the best we've ever seen, but there wasn't anything that I saw where I was like, I'm never going to see an FPO player throw a forehand like that, because there are people that have better forehands than her. I'm never going to see an FPO player putt better than that. There are better and a lot of her wins too. If you watch a lot of her wins, the people around her are collapsing. Right? It's not like someone's going shot for shot and we're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible disc golf. And so that's the other thing I think that's going to hurt her case for greatest of all time is 10, 20 years from now, there might be someone that is way better than her. And so the only thing she has to hold on to now is the accolades. And those, you know,
I'll say this: no matter whether the GOAT changes or not, like if some other FPO player comes around and dominates, and like we had the same argument again, like another Kristen pops up, I don't think anyone will ever have the season Kristen had in 2023. So I think she will have the greatest season of all time for sure.
The Grand Slam is nuts.
Yeah, I just don't think anyone else will do that again.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean,
that's like the Paul McBeth thing, right? Of where he was getting first or second or third in every tournament.
Just can't happen anymore.
When it gets deeper fields, you just can't do that.
Well, even this year with all of the anxiety and issues that Kristen was very open about online, if you look at her season right before she DNF'd at Worlds, her worst finish was 6th. Like she had multiple wins. She was podium all the time.
I don't think she's ever finished worse than 8th at an international event.
Her legacy too is even though she bowed out kind of in an odd way, it's not like the numbers aren't going to look ridiculous. It's going to look like she was just having a fine season, good by most standards. Make sure to chime in down below in the comments. What do you think about that? What does Paige need to do? It's an interesting discussion for sure. So moving on to our next topic here. So this one kind of is the essence of this show and commentating on that in general. But throughout the course of the season, we make a lot of knee-jerk reactions about players and then develop subsequent takes about those players, whether good or bad, after just one or two consecutive events. We kind of form these narratives, so many narratives throughout the year. So I want to know which player, or maybe just even if you just have a different narrative, but which player did we get super high or super low on that turned out to be a lot less of a big deal than we thought? So maybe somebody we thought was the next big thing just kind of fizzled out, or somebody we thought was in a lot of trouble and then it ended up righting the ship, because we definitely, a lot of them came to my mind. So I'm curious to see if anybody names. There's one in particular I'm really thinking of. Gary, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to take one for the team here and fall on my own sword. These are kind of my worst takes of the year, and I had to go get receipts on myself. So in episode 5 this year, the question was brought up about Kristen's dominance, and we've talked a lot about that. And we all, including myself, said this was going to be a massive year for her, and I explicitly said monster year was possible, and she got some wins. But we all know what happened. So in that same idea kept going for a few episodes. Next up was in episode 18 when I was asked, or we were all asked, who the most overrated players were. And I very boldly proclaimed that it was Goose. And I said that he needed to start putting something together and that he was outside the cut line and that we keep saying courses are good for him, and he then underperforms. Literally, the next event was the event where he started turning the entire season around, and I started suggesting him for Pick'em, and now he's finishing 13th in tour standings. So you're welcome, Goose, if you listen, and that was what fired you up. But that's a terrible take on my end, I guess. Up to that point, it wasn't a bad take. But my biggest take of the year that kind of failed was, I'm not sure which episode it was, but I expressed at some point when we were looking at Paul McBeth, based upon his inability to kind of finish rounds at like Waco, Music City, Champs Cup, I kind of boldly stated that I did not think he was going to get a win this year. And I think a lot of us kind of felt that way, like where it was trending. And now, and that was based on his play at the time. I don't think it was a terrible take, but now we know, he's got 2 wins under his belt, and it was actually a really darn good year for him. And so those are my worst takes of the year.
That's for sure. Yeah, it took towards the end of the season. Yeah, Goose really righted the ship. He turned it way around.
Yeah, he did.
Hannah, how about you? Which ones that caught your eye?
Yeah, so I went full FPO with this because based on what I'd seen on social media and heard on other podcasts and other people's takes, I kind of have three big FPO names or takes that I think were wrong. The first is I think a lot of people went really high on Holland Handley, and think they went too low on Missy and Own at points. So when the season first started, everyone was thinking that Holland's going to dominate, right? She won multiple events early on, and she was like finishing podiums all over the place, and she didn't finish worse than fifth place up until Worlds. But since Worlds, she's had a lot of inconsistencies in her game, and it could be due to private matters or just the season long grind or whatever it might be. But even with 4 wins before Worlds this year, it seems like she's kind of worked herself out of the player of the year conversation with all these recent inconsistencies in her game and performances. And she's just not currently at the same level that she was before that. We've seen her podium at 2 recent events where she should have probably won at least one of them and just couldn't quite get it together in the end. Now, the other one is Missy. She had a couple of lower finishes at the beginning of the season. There were some questions out, what's Missy going to do this year? What's going on? And then she's now won multiple events, including a major. She very well could be the player of the year this year. And she just surpassed like $400,000 of career earnings, which is insane. Big money, Missy. And lastly, with Own, there was an early narrative this season of she's too old or she doesn't have the distance to compete anymore. And now she's won Idlewild. She's a current and reigning world champion in both FPO and Masters divisions, which is an achievement no one else has ever reached before. And so I think a lot of these earlier narratives on some of these FPO players were maybe too overstated, and then they kind of underestimated people like Owen and Missy. And here we are at the end of the season, and the proof is right there of how good these people are or where their holes might be.
Yeah, we do always have to remember the courses on tour change very drastically during the second half of the tour. It is a different course entirely. Dustin, which takes did you pick out?
I honestly struggle with this one because I didn't have a lot of time to try to come up with this. But the best one I could think of is I think a lot of people got super high on Adam Hammes because he had a really early win of the season at Waco. And then he had that one at the PCS Open kind of more towards the middle of the season. And generally had a solid start to the year overall, too, with those 2 wins kind of involved. But, man, has he really kind of had some absolute bombs kind of in between. Like when he goes, was it like 83rd or something like that, the Kansas City Wide Open? Obviously, these last few events even weren't that good. Like he did not do well at MVP. He did not do well at D-Glow. He's had several other events where he really didn't look that good. And right now he sits at 10th in the standings. But if you were to ask me, is Adam Hammes top 10 player in the world? I would say absolutely not. So I do think that maybe those 2 wins made him look maybe a little bit higher overall than he probably actually is. Then the weird one, and I don't know if this is like too low or too high, but the finish that Cole Radallen just had at the end of this season is absolutely absurd. I mean, this guy, star of the season, so bad. I mean, this guy was doing jack diddly squat all the way up the first stretch of the year and into the first major. But then he had like the Cascade Challenge where he played pretty well, did okay at the Northwest Disc Golf Championship, had the 15th at the major at the Disc Golf Festival in Europe. But otherwise, his European swing was absolute trash. But then the Goo goes third, first to finish the season at Idlewild GMC and then wins the MVP Open, only his second win ever in his career at an Elite Series event. And it's just like, I don't know what to do with that. Like he clearly shows that like he's got a hell of a game and can compete at a very high level against some of the best, but it's just like, dude, it's like a roller coaster ride of a season for that guy.
He's an interesting one because he did have injury problems. I don't know how
last year.
Yeah, he had injury problems that were nagging him. So I don't know how much of that, but also the courses just suit his game the later half of the year. And then Hammes, we really thought this year was going to be different because he's been notoriously streaky in his career, even though he has an insanely high ceiling. And it started that way, like you said, and then it's kind of come back to the ground, and then it's like, hey, maybe he'll go out and win USDGC. You never know. Certainly has the forehand for it. Brodie, nobody has named my one take yet, or my one player that we missed on.
I'm not going to name it.
No, you got it. I believe in you.
No, I'm not going to name it because I think the number one answer here, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, is what Gary said earlier. I think it's Paul McBeth. I think coming from the background that he has, there's not another player at even close to his pedigree that we were out on, that so many people were out on. And maybe I'm misreading this question because I'm kind of talking more about like the general populace of people in disc golf, not necessarily just us on the show here. But you had, when he was going through the injuries, you had people that were just flat out saying he was trash, just bad at disc golf. And then once he started kind of playing better, then they moved the goalpost to, well, he can't win. Like, oh yeah, okay, he's better now, but he just can't win. And I think he is proven now at this point to where he is back in the category of 4, maybe 5 guys of where you're like, they are the favorites to win this tournament. Now, obviously, Gannon is at the very top, but underneath that, there's a couple guys in there that you're like, these are the next guys that can win this. And so I think he's the biggest one out of anyone, just because of the gap that so many people were wrong on, claiming this person to just be absolutely trash, washed up, can't do it anymore, to basically fighting himself back into a position of where he's one of the top, probably 3 players in the world.
Yeah.
It's probably where you have to put him.
I mean, yeah, he's played consistent enough all year that the wins were just that extra cherry on top. Like, okay, not only is he going to be in the top 10, he can win the tournament. And now if you were, going into USDGC, you'd probably pick him as your second favorite player. Like,
he's probably right behind Gannon.
You'd have to. Yeah. And where else do you go at that point? So the player that I had in mind.
Is it Ezra Aderhold?
No.
Is it AB?
No.
Okay. Ricky.
It's female.
Oh.
Katrina Allen?
Flash in the pan that, well, I wouldn't even say flash in the pan. Cadence Burge.
Okay.
Cadence Burge. For
a
couple weeks there, I had convinced myself that Cadence Burge had figured out disc golf and she was going to be around for the rest of the season. I was like, okay, she got to win. She was playing really pretty consistently there for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And
she finished 9th in points.
We all Hunter and I think had dubbed her next up. And then she just kind of went away. And there's clearly she's still very young, definitely still potential there. But I thought she had arrived, had not.
I think finishing 9th in MVP helped her out a lot. Because she was waning at the end of the season. You're right. The last 5 or 6 events or so, but yeah.
I was convinced that she was there. So
I'm looking at
Robbie C in the bag.
Yeah. I'm looking at her season. I'm looking at her season right now, and outside of 38th at the Open at Austin, the beginning of her season are all top 20 finishes. A lot of top 5, a lot of top 10 finishes.
Top 20 doesn't mean anything though.
No, there was literally I think only one. Yeah, everything was top 10 except for Austin and Champions Cup. Everything was top 10 and a lot of seconds, some thirds. So really impressive start. I think, Trevor, what ended up happening, because she ends up finishing the season 26th, 19th, 14th, 24th, and then 9th at MVP. I think what ended up this stretch right here, Ledgestone, Idlewild, D-Glow, and GMC. My thoughts on that is this, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this is her first time touring, right?
Cadence?
I don't know if
full tour, yeah, I think so.
Full tour, yeah. She might have got fatigued, you're saying?
No. Well, that could be one of the things.
4-round events.
That could be one of the things, but the other thing I was going to say is Ledgestone's 2 courses, GMC's 2 courses. If she's seeing a lot of these courses for the first time, and some of these courses are, in my opinion, way more difficult, way more trickier. Waco's very cut and dry. It's here's the whole lot of par 3s, where some of these other courses, like D-Glow, playing D-Glow for the first time with the elevation, if you're not used to that's a really tough course.
It's her second year on tour. Sorry, just a correction.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she maybe just didn't play as much.
Relatively fresh to tour, but yeah.
That could be another thing too, is towards the end, you're playing a lot tougher courses that maybe don't suit your game and something that you're not super comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, that was my knee-jerk reaction for the season, no doubt. Okay. Moving on. So, just because we had 2 weeks off, you guys thought we were going to talk about FPO Player of the Year. You're wrong. This time I kind of circumvented it by asking a different question that's going to get you to talk about the exact same thing. So I'm really clever. Obviously, with Missy getting another win, it continues to get a little more chaotic. It seems like at this point, we kind of have a clear picture, though. It doesn't. There's a lot of people I think will side a certain way. Gary, I guess, will not. But regardless, one of the big things to discuss here is Throw Pink. The Throw Pink Championship, obviously one of the hardest tournaments to win, but it is just an A tier. Should that be considered for the FPO Player of the Year discussion? Now, this is the Disc Golf Pro Tour Player of the Year. And this would be if ballots are submitted after the event, which we haven't gotten them yet. Last year, they came after the event. It's likely they will again. And then I also want to know, do you think the winner of that event could or would change your mind on the deserving winner, whether you would consider it or not? So, Hannah, where do you sit on this one?
Yeah, so yes, Throw Pink is technically just an A tier, but I think for a lot of us fans, and I think for a lot of the players too, like we all refer to it as the major in our hearts, right? Because we love this event. It always seems difficult to win. There's always a competitive field to some degree or some type of drama that occurs. Like we want to watch this. And so it feels almost like disrespectful that it's just an A tier, but that's a conversation for another day. I think due to the prevalency of recency bias, though, that even if it technically shouldn't count towards the Pro Tour Player of the Year, it will. I mean, I think what half the vote comes from touring players and the rest is the media. So these are all people who are going to watch the event, who are going to talk about the players and the action and what happens. And so that's going to be fresh in their minds. Now, it shouldn't be weighed on the same level of like Worlds and other majors, probably not. But again, recency bias is very real, and we're seeing that actively playing out in this race. In my opinion, it's still a race between Missy and Silva. And I think even though I think Silva's had a better season overall, and if you look at the head-to-head matchups, that proves it. I think if one of them wins it, it probably cements them this title. But if somebody else wins it, even like Holland or Owen or any other random FPO player, I think that still leaves a 50-50 debate on if people choose Missy or Silva, because it kind of opens things up a little bit more. But even if Holland were to win, as a side note, that puts her at 5 wins. But without the major title and with inconsistencies, I still don't think she's in the race. So ultimately, this is going to be a really exciting event, because if, like I said, Missy or Silva wins, then it's kind of the conversation's over. But if they don't, then it could be really interesting to see which way people go.
Certainly. Dustin, how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Throw Pink should absolutely be considered as part of this. I mean, even though it's not officially a major, it should be, and it's not our fault that the PGA and others are incompetent enough to not allow this to be a major for FPO. And so I think it should be included in the player of the year conversation. And I certainly think in this case, it will absolutely have impact on who becomes a player of the year, because I do think that is a very close race between 3 players. Obviously, Silva Saarinen's got to be one of them. She has a major, 3 other elite wins, 5 other podiums, and an average and finish of 4.5. Missy Gannon, she's got a major. She's also got 3 other elite wins. She's got several other podiums. Her average finish is a little bit worse at 6.4, but still a fantastic season. But Holland Handley has 4 elite wins, 6 podiums, and her average and finishing place is only just slightly lower than Silva at 4.7. Yes, she does not have a major, but if Silva wins Throw Pink, I think she wins Player of the Year. If Missy wins Throw Pink, I think she wins Player of the Year. If Holland Handley wins Throw Pink, even if she doesn't officially have a major, she still has more wins than anybody else. She would have won Throw Pink, which is often considered a major by most people. She has 6 additional podiums, so more additional podiums than any other player in the field. And she's got one of the best averaging finishes of anybody. Like, yes, she had a couple bumps in the road, which stopped her from being like one of the most dominant, stretches we've seen from somebody. But I do think that people are letting a little bit of that recency bias kind of crush her from not being in the Player of the Year argument, when she certainly should be, in my opinion. So that's kind of where I'm at with all of it. I definitely think that it has a substantial impact on the race, in my opinion.
Okay, Dustin making the case for Holland. Brodie, what do you think?
Was it me and then Gary? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So firstly, does anyone have any information on why this is not a major?
And owns it and all that stuff, right?
I mean, the European Open was a major, and that was owned by a company else as well.
I think it's just because they want to keep U.S. men's and U.S. women's separate. Like, the
PDGA currently runs US women's, and they don't want to give it to somebody not named the PDGA.
Wait, what? Say it again. Sorry.
The PDGA currently has U.S. women's, and I don't think they're going to give it away. They've also kind of made it a festival of women's disc golf. They have like all the divisions.
Why can't it just be like a different name? I guess
they could.
I don't know.
Yeah, it could. It just hasn't happened.
Because this is the only. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is like the only event that like the Disc Golf Pro Tour or Well, I guess the Disc Golf Pro Tour technically isn't covering it, but this is the only event that's kind of fits in the mold here outside of like the President's Cup. I would say that's like being filmed. All the best players are there. Everyone's watching. Everyone cares about it.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, the match play, I guess you could throw out
That's
there.
an anomaly. Yeah.
I don't think anyone's really watching the match play stuff. So to me, like President's Cup, that's an exhibition. Everyone goes into that. So if like someone has a terrible President's Cup, no one looks and like, dings you points. If you have a great, no one cares. Like this to me isn't an exhibition. So to me, I think it should 100% count. And I think it 100% will also count as far as people taking it towards their votes. Like, I don't think people are going to be able to not look at who wins it and put that as a factor in who they're voting.
Yeah, I mean, when the last post you see on Instagram before voting is going to be a certain player holding up a trophy, like it's gonna do something there. Okay, Gary, I know you have a take here to fire, so let's hear it.
It's not a crazy hot take. I mean, should this count? Technically, based on the rules, it shouldn't count. But is it going to? Given the voting population, 100% it is. And if you look at it, it's 50% to the media, 50% to the tour card holders, and that means that people are involved. And as long as people are involved, popularity is undeniable. And say what you will about fairness, I'm going to say it. American popularity is also a real thing. I think that if the race wasn't a close one, it wouldn't matter at all. But this year, with how close it is, it's certainly going to. Throw pink is a major in everybody's hearts, like it's been said here. And for some people, it's more of a major than the US WDGC is. Right now, we have an exceptionally tight race between Missy and Silva. Owen and Holland are close behind, close enough that I think, like we said, a throw pink win may sway some votes for sure. But from a purely statistical perspective, like on paper, Silva should be player of the year. Better average finish, better average major finish. You can call Turku a throwaway event, but she beat Kristen more than anybody did this year. But that being said, when you add in the human factor, popularity, recency bias, it's Missy right now. It's Missy's to lose. If Owner Holland wins throw pink, they're immediately thrown into the conversation. If Silva wins throw pink, I think she wins it outright. So if they don't want this to count, then they should put out the voting before the event starts. That's just not how it's going to be. They said a couple of years ago, back in 2021, like they maybe be able to get it changed to a major in the future. We saw how that's going to happen. That's going, and I think didn't like Doug kind of hint at it a little bit in an interview.
Yeah, he
so
did.
There's that too. Who knows?
Nothing has come out of that, but it seemed like for a second there, like imminently we're going to get this news that they're finally bringing it all together, but it has yet to happen. And yeah, I mean, you're right. If they wanted it not to count, they would have given us the ballots yesterday. And in fact, they have not. Or
I have a question. Do you think there would be a big hoorah if FPO had 5 majors, MPO only had 4?
Or do you think people wouldn't care? Actually asked
I technically wouldn't.
They have their own major that no one's playing at.
I asked that to Hunter at one point. I said, like, would you rather it be the way that it is now or have like 5 total majors? I can't remember what he said, but I think I would lean towards just do the 5 majors.
Because I feel like they're never going to give up on U.S. women's.
Problem is,
you know what I mean?
If you do the 5 majors, people are just going to, like, it might even further demote U.S. women's, even though it has no reason to really. People just would in their minds, I feel like, demote
it. Because it's the course. It's the course. That
doesn't help. Yeah, that definitely doesn't help. But.
And even if it demotes U.S. women's in the minds of us as fans who watch the pros, U.S. women's is such a huge event for women's disc golf and girls disc golf as a whole that 100%. I don't think it will actually struggle as an event. I just think some of the narrative around it as a official major, people would maybe question.
I also think they should be swapped around as far as like what they are.
Yeah, that's what throw pink is.
Exactly.
Throw pink is also another. It's supposedly an international event for women to play disc golf. So they are trying to be what each other is trying to be.
Yeah, they should swap places. Like, in my opinion.
Let's just call it what it is, though. Like disc golf right now is proving to be the sport where they are going to go the route of tennis, where they're going to have men and women both play at the event. That's just what it is. If the course allows it, they're going to have both of them play at the course. You have one of the best courses with Rob. People love that course. They love the holes there. They're playing the course. You have the fans. You have the atmosphere. All that exists as like a major atmosphere. and then you just it just doesn't count.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Like,
it's crazy to think that like you could effectively win that tournament like 3 years in a row, but not win any majors and be like, you're a 0-time winner, major winner, and be like, are you serious? Like, I won the hardest tournament 3 years in a row.
And it's funny because it's like one of the most unanimous fan things I think of all time. But it's like we all agree like that this should count.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm sure
you're not going to find anybody out there who doesn't. I don't think
there's a business hold up.
Yeah.
From an optic standpoint, like the trophy and the way they handle the title of it, like it's way beyond any A tier ever. Like it's a huge deal. Like they probably have better trophies and stuff like that than most other majors. And then
they're going to have a much better trophy than U.S. Women's. I guarantee that.
Now, well, Gary, now that they're not losing $140,000 on the magazine, watch out.
That's very true.
They're about to drop $25,000 on a trophy.
No. They're going to use half of that as a salary to hire a brand new PDGA potter. No, a potter to make all ceramic PDGA trophies in the future.
When you go to Chandler, what's the place called? Where they have their headquarters? Oh, what is that? It's WR Jackson's, of course, but what is that technically called?
Oh my gosh,
ISDG.
International Disc Golf Center.
They're gonna build like their own like pottery barn in the back. It's just gonna be a building that they're constantly making trophies.
We're making all the trophies back here. It's where your membership dues are
throwing
going.
discs and throwing pots.
All right, let's move on to our final topic here before the finals. Talk a little bit about very recent events here that had as we get to the Tour Championship after USDGC, and we had a little bit more drama at MVP because of a new format change, allowing for players to basically earn spots just based on their ability to make it to MVP and then play well in that event. So I want to know two things. Now that the cut line has been decided for Tour Championship, who's the most shocking miss from MPO and FPO divisions? Because it's a lot tighter these days. A lot of names that don't make these cuts. And then also, do you think the wild card spots were a fair addition to the entry process? Obviously, you had players that just by placing well at MVP and making it there were able to get into the Tour Championship. Which is different than previously where you had to win basically to get those auto bids. Dustin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think to start off with like the shocking misses, I think for MPO, the clear candidate to me is Austin Turner. I mean, he started the year so strong when he came 9th at Supreme Flight and 2nd at MCO, and he really hovered around the top 20 for a bit after that. But kind of Ledgestone forward, he really struggled, didn't even cash the last 5 events that he played at the end of the season. And so that was definitely kind of a dramatic downturn I just did not expect. I really think the only other name you could even come up with for MPO was Joey Buckets because of how well he played last year. But he had such an up and down year that I'm not surprised he didn't make it. Now for FPO, I think there's only one clear name for me. And it's Emily Weatherman, because she was the breakout player of 2024 when she won Des Moines and had some other strong finishes at some other big tournaments. And at the start of this season, she did okay when she wasn't lighting the world on fire, but she was getting decent enough finishes to keep her in the mix, you would think, to be a contender to make the Pro Tour finale, and did well at some majors, 12th at Champions Cup, 6th at U.S. Women's. But the fact that people like Lisa Fakis and Madison Walker made it to the finale over her is very shocking, in my opinion, considering her. Now, as far as the wildcard spot, is it fair? Absolutely not. Like, to me, I think it's whack, because you can have a situation where the top 28 players in the standings finish in the top 28 at MVP, and then all of a sudden the 29th place finisher at MVP gets a spot because, or 29th through 32nd, I guess you could say, gets a spot because they were the top 4 finisher outside of the top 28. That is obnoxious. Like, you can't give one event that much value. The whole point of the Pro Tour Championship is to reward the people who play well all season and make their way through the stage. You're telling me that someone who places 32nd at the MVP Open could, technically speaking, make it to the Pro Tour finale? That is trash. That is such a garbage wildcard system. I'm out.
I had said something similar, but I wasn't that passionate about it. That's funny. Brodie, what do you think?
I was like, wait a second, hold on.
Yeah, so I'm not someone that's gonna like have multiple names on here. I'm gonna have my top names and I'm gonna stick with it. Unfortunately for me, those are both the same names that Dustin just said. So it is Austin Turner. I think in the MPO, I think there are other surprising names of where you're like, man, like he just had a bad season. But I don't think anyone is more surprising than Austin Turner because of how well he played in this season at the beginning of the year and how we were talking him all up. I mean, he started the season 9th, 30th, 24th, 2nd, 19th, and 14th. That's a lot of points in the first 6 events. And so that was a little bit surprising. And then Emily Weatherman is a very, very interesting one because last year, similar to what Dustin said, great season last year. She had 6 top 10s last year, and she won at DMC. And when you watch her play at DMC, it was not fluky. It was not like everyone else was playing poorly. She played really, really well. And it was similar to the cadence thing of where we're like, oh, this is going to be another contender. There's going to be someone that we're going to see maybe at more of the shorter courses because she doesn't have the distance. But this year, she goes from 6 top 10s last year to only 2 top finishes this season. And it wasn't like she did play like half the events. She pretty much played the entire thing. She didn't play a couple events over in Europe. And as regards to the wild card spots, for those that are watching and paying attention to it, I think it's really, really a small percentage of people. I think that for those people that are going to care about those people in the actual tour championship, I think it's a very, very small percentage of people. But as far as like taking a step back, I think there's another thing where someone just said, hey, what if we did this? And everyone's like, oh, yeah, let's do it. Like there was I don't think there's a lot of thought process in the decision making because I don't think you can find another sport that has something that gets you in. It's not just gets you into the playoffs. If it was something where it's like it got you into GMC, sure. But the fact that this is getting you into guaranteed money, I believe at the Tour Championship, I think last place that gets $2,000.
Correct.
I don't think there's another sport out there that has a worse fairness of a wild card. I really don't. I think this is the worst of any sport I've ever heard of.
Okay, all right.
It's so
Everybody
bad.
just dogging on the wild card. I love it. Gary, what do you think about all this?
I don't think the wild card is terrible. I do think it was kind of short-sighted to do it so quickly. I mean, it does build some additional storyline from a coverage perspective. But I think for players that have all the skill, but they couldn't tour all year due to things like injury or life events or cost or whatever, it gives them an opportunity. Because like players who play all year at events but play terribly are going to get in sometimes. It happens all the time on the FPO side. But you also can't tell me that Haley King, from a skill perspective, doesn't belong in the Tour Championship. And I think her presence only helps. But if someone crazy wins, you know, underdog, whatever. On the FPO side, the 2 people who stand out to me the most who missed, obviously Emily Weatherman, like we said, but it only stands out, I think, because of last year. She actually hasn't done as really that great this year, in my opinion. Average finish of 19.1, which is outside the cut line anyway. The other one for me is Rachel Turton, right? A lot of skill. I think she's a perfect example of who this was made for. Someone who couldn't tour everywhere all the time, has all the skill to be there. But when you go 9 over through 9 to start your final round MVP and you run up against a killer Donica, it's just not going to get you in when you need to go. For MPO, there are plenty of players who could have played significantly better, but down the stretch, I think Mari Vilman, even though he would not have been able to play because of his military requirements, seeing him not make the cut line was odd to me. And then the biggest shock is Austin Turner, obviously, because he dealt with some injury, but he finished 68 points behind. His average finish in the last 5 events was 52.4. If he finished 35th, he would have made it. Harry Chase is also out there too, because all he had to do was par hole 18. He didn't know what his score was or where he was at, and he decided to go for it for the birdie. Ended up inside of a playoff with Rasmus Sokorupi, and we all saw how that turned out for him. But at least we have Clemens in the lefty squad in the Tour Championship.
Do you have the lefty? We have
Can
lefty
I rebuttal
representation.
now, or do I have to wait until the end?
You got to wait. Save it. Hannah, go ahead.
Save it, Maple.
Yeah, so I mean, the wild card, it's the way they did it is really, it's not fair. I think we all are agreeing on that. That said, I did kind of selfishly love it, and maybe it's just because I felt like the commentary team this weekend on both MPO and FPO, like they did a really good job, I felt like, of making it like worth the hype, of like playing it up. Like I was suddenly really interested where all these people were, because I honestly kind of forgot about it before coverage started. But then they're like showing all these different camera angles and all these different stats, and I was like, oh, like this is really a thing. And then, and especially in FPO, it kept flipping. So that was really, really exciting to watch. Is it fair? No. But I do like the way that they at least sold it or tried to get us all engaged and to care about it. I think they were pretty successful for at least the diehard fans. In FPO, though, yes, Emily Weatherman, she's had a weird season, but I honestly couldn't come up with somebody who was shocking that they missed, especially with the wild card positions and those who won got in anyway. Rachel Turton, I thought for sure a few times she had a spot, but then like Gary said, like she just had a terrible start to the final round and it's hard to come back from that. In MPO, everyone's already said it, but Austin Turner was like my number one pick too. Joey Buckets was also up there, but he's also had an up and down season. And similar to Gavin Rathbun, like I was scrolling through the list, I'm like, why isn't he in it? I was like, oh, his season's not maybe been as good as we were expecting from maybe past performances last year or whatever. So, but that playoff to get into the wild card spots was really exciting between Harry and Rasmus, and Harry Chase had it right there and he could have made it. And so that is kind of disappointing being the local person, but yeah, overall it'll be really interesting to see how the tournament plays out.
Yeah, Harry Chase, he threw it away. He really should have been in the into the championship. It was
he's the perfect
tough
example. He's the example of the opposite of Cole Redolin, right? So he went for it on 18. It did not work out for him. And
he's the one who gets to look silly. Yeah, no doubt.
Exactly.
Okay, tiebreaker. Hannah, Gary.
Wait, do I get a rebuttal?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
rebuttal time.
Fire away.
Okay, we got Gary over here with his tiers for injured players and how they should have
tiers for injured.
How they should have a chance at the last event to get in. So my question to you, Gary, is what should the NFL do about the Cincinnati Bengals? I know Trevor will like this because they just played the Bengals with Jake Browning, potentially the worst quarterback we have ever seen in the NFL. If Joe Burrow miraculously comes back week 16, that team is going to be way out of the playoffs by then.
Earlier,
should they have a chance to make the playoffs?
Sure.
Because Joe Burrow got hurt.
Earlier, you made a comparison to football and said how they weren't even remotely comparable sport to sport. So doing it here doesn't really work for that because it's a whole different thing.
Don't do that. He got injured.
It's a whole different thing.
Secondarily, Chase is crying on the sidelines.
Secondarily, I'm not defending the decision to do this. I think it was rushed and they shouldn't have done it. But since we have it, we have to at least look at the merits of it. It is what it is.
You just got to be 80th place to make it to the MVP Open.
I get all that. It does suck, but we have it. We have to live.
We made this bed. Now we're gonna like it.
We have to live. We have to live in the bed that we made, and it is what it is.
But you can say it's not the bed they made.
If you looked at, they did. They made. I'm a secret agent for the PGA.
They can still say it's a trash bed.
It's terrible.
It's not great.
I would never sleep in this bed.
It's not great at all. But the
threat count is so low.
I understand that, but if you look down the board at like the especially the FPO side,
okay,
there are so many players who just get into the Tour Championship because they decided to show up every weekend.
Sure, but that's not going to be the case 20 years from now.
But we're not talking 20 years from now. We're talking right now. Listen, the Pro Tour's going to change their mind next year.
That's my whole point.
Going to change their mind next year. It's going to be different.
Can I interject really quick?
You're trying to build legacy. You're trying to build legacy into like some sort of system. If you change the system every year, the legacy resets.
I also hate that. We don't disagree. We're on the same side.
So you should think about, hey, what makes sense? Like, is this fair? We're trying to hype up this whole season to get into the Tour Championship. Should we make a rule that, hey, guess what? You could suck all year. If you're just decent one tournament, you're in. Because I remember, too, a couple years ago, people that didn't even qualify for MVP playoff, they were just letting people in.
I was there when you got the email. I know all that. We agree.
They're like, hey, guess what? You didn't qualify, but guess what? We have spots. Come on in. That makes no sense at all.
Yeah. Just because I'm not going as hard in the paint as you are doesn't mean I'm on the opposite side of the argument you are. I'm on the same side. I'm just choosing to look around.
I think you said you liked
it. The house is just on fire.
I thought I heard you liked it for the people that were injured all year.
I don't like it. I don't like it for the people that are injured. I said part of the reasoning behind doing it was for the people who weren't able to tour.
Their motive.
Yeah, anyways. I'm trying to get behind. This is giving Hannah plenty of time to look at the finishing positions. All I know is that.
Why do you want people in it
You
then?
can never memorize them all.
I
I'm not saying you're saying that I like this. I don't like it. I'm just saying because
That's
they
what I wanted to
have
hear.
it,
Thank
we
you.
have to look at the merits of it.
That's all I wanted to hear. And listen, I
Oh,
don't want
yeah,
to disagree. I got to say that Bengals team, man, they were tough, dude. The Broncos,
Yeah.
they look good. That Bengals team was tough. Anyways,
move the ball.
tiebreaker,
move the ball.
tiebreaker. They're tough, man. They were bringing everything they
Very
had.
tough.
Gary, Hannah, who can tell me closest to where did Nicholas Antela finish at the MVP Open?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Oh no.
I'm looking at the camera. My hands are up.
Nobody's paying
hands
attention
up,
to
both of
that
you.
guy.
I
Nobody's
think,
paying attention.
I think I have this one
No, you
on the
don't.
money. I think
You're
I have
probably
it.
staring at it.
I do.
Oh my goodness.
I'll give Hannah the advantage and I'll go first. I think
Okay.
he finished. I think it was like low to mid 20s. I'm gonna say like 20. I'll go with 23rd.
Okay, I was thinking a little lower than that only because this is going to sound terrible because I am a fan of his, but I was looking through the leaderboard, during the tournament and I kind of forgot he was playing it. So maybe I missed something and he like really did good. But I'm thinking maybe like 30.
Oh,
I'm going 14. I'm going 14.
So his final round was a 6 under. But that only brought him to a total of 8 under for the tournament, leaving him in 34th place.
Ooh, that's tough.
Ooh.
Tough for Nicholas.
Just
Tough for
outside,
Nicholas.
one spot outside of the cash line.
That's tough.
Okay. Hannah, Dustin, welcome to the finals.
hello.
Here's our topic. Inspired by this weekend's Ryder Cup. If you had to create 2 disc golf teams of 3 MPO and 3 FPO players each, which combination of players would make for the most exciting and competitive matchup, similar to the electricity we saw at the Ryder Cup this past weekend? Would splitting teams by country be enough, or would you leverage personal rivalries or something else entirely? Dustin, would you like to go first or second?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're talking about splitting teams by country, I think this gets really tough on the MPO side because, yes, for Europe, you have Nicolas Antela, you have Simon Lizotte, maybe you throw Mari Vilman in there. But then after that, it gets really tough to come up with other elite European MPO talent that can compete with the likes of a Ganenberg, an AB, a Heimberg, a Ricky, a Paul, a Klein, Robinson brothers. I could go on forever on US, people that could be, on the MPO team. Now, FPO is actually a little bit more interesting because, you have Missy Holland own maybe a Paige Pierce or an Ella Hansen or something like that for the North American side. And then, on the European side, you have Silva Saarinen, you have Silva Saarinen, Elvina Salonen. And then if Kristen was still in the mix, maybe you get her back for it. Even though she's retired, you let her come back for an event like this. I think that would be electric. Yeah, exactly. So wild card unearned. I think that could actually work out. So I'm leaning more towards the rivalry as opposed to the country thing. Although I think you could do a country thing for FPO and it would actually work out pretty well. And so here's what I'm doing. All right. I'm thinking about matchups, and that's how I kind of built up my team. If you're cool with that. All right. So for the teams, I got Ganenberg versus AB. All right. So Ganenberg's on team A, AB's on team B, whatever. Then I got Paul McBeth versus Ricky Wysocki. Who doesn't want that? Right.
Sure.
We all still love that one. Okay. Then you're going to like this one. The Robinsons brother brawl. I'm putting them on opposing teams against each other.
Okay.
All right. I want to see them go head to head. And then some other interesting matchups you could have done is Goss's versus Aderhold, I think would be electric. And then Eagle versus Simon would also be electric. But then so for the FPO side, I think I will just split it by country because I think it's actually kind of fun. So I will go, let's say Missy versus Silva, I think would be a fun matchup to watch. I'll put them on opposing teams. I'll take Holland versus Evelina Salonen. I think having those on 2 opposing teams would be pretty cool. And then I want Owen Scoggins involved because she did some incredible stuff, and I will put her up against Paige Pierce.
Okay, fun.
I kind of didn't go quite at the end of the country-wise, only because Kristen's not playing anymore. But I would put Kristen in if she's willing to play for Paige Pierce.
The matchups definitely sound solid. Hannah, which direction did you go?
So I kind of went not completely different direction, but kind of like Dustin pointed out, when you split up by countries, there is an imbalance on the MPO side, just with the current system and structure of the professional disc golf scene. You don't have as many, outside of the US, you don't have as many high-level MPO pros as you do FPO pros, whereas you could argue that some of the best FPO players in our history or in the world currently come from Europe. or in Kristen's case did. So I kind of mixed up my teams a little bit, but I went more of a dividing of, again, with the rivalries thing, like that could be exciting, but I don't know if there's enough true rivalries to really keep interest and intrigue. And some of those narratives are maybe a little bit worn down in the modern day era. Ricky and Paul are on the same, sponsor team now. So like they're all buddy buddy now. But so I went kind of like a not old school, but slightly older school versus the new school. So
Okay, I like it.
here's what I'm going with. So on my slightly older school, I don't want to offend anyone or make assumptions.
Love that.
For FPO, we're going to go with those who are kind of more dominant for like the past decade, like the longevity of things, who are still also actively playing. So I have Missy, Own, and Paige, and they would be going against the new school team of Silva, Cadence Burridge, and Ida Lethamaki, I think. She just took second. She's a 15-year-old from Europe who just took second at Worlds this year.
Yeah, we got it.
I think you'd get insane matchups from those two teams, and I would probably pair them by ranking. So it'd probably be Silva, Missy, Cadence, Own, and then maybe Paige and Ida. For the MPO side, we're going to do Paul, Ricky, and Simon on my slightly older school team. We're going to pair them up together and make them play nice against the new school of Gannon, AB, and Nicholas. Again, probably, maybe with the current standings, we go Paul, Gannon, AB, Ricky, and then Simon, Nicholas. But I think you get some really exciting matchups splitting them up that way, kind of like a generation versus generation thing where everyone's still also kind of at their peak. And I think that'd be really fun to watch. And I think people would tune in to see, do the rivalries stand? Is there infighting in the teams? Like, can they make it work?
Honestly,
a lot of storylines.
I you know what? I'm going to give a hand to the nod. I think that's a very creative response. I think that honestly, I didn't even think about that, but that's probably one of the more interesting ways to make a rivalry, because I think the older guard would get like, they'd have a lot of pride in winning that. And it is funny, you mentioned the infighting thing, like that's a narrative. Like there's been US Ryder Cup teams where like Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau hate each other's guts and they've got to like be buddies. So like there is something to that as well. It is very on theme.
Rebuttal.
Go ahead. Rebuttal, I guess.
I can rebuttal?
Sure.
Good God. I'll just say this. They have the match play right now, which is the head-to-head kind of what this would be. That's only for the sickos. The only people that are watching that are the sickos. I just looked at the numbers. The numbers are terrible. Only sickos are watching that. The Ryder Cup. The Ryder Cup is such a spectacle that not only are the sickos watching every second, can't wait for it, it brings people in that know nothing about golf, that care nothing about golf, and they watch it. And so for this event to actually have any sort of to it, it's got to be manufacturers. We got to go manufacturers versus and the fact that no one said that is why.
That's a good point. I mean,
no one's watching.
You couldn't do that.
The funny part was
Ryder Cups.
The funny part was Dustin was cooked anyway, because I also did 30 plus and anyone under 30 against each other. So
no one's watching those. No one's watching that. Only the sickos.
I'll watch. Well,
You're
in any case, I am a sicko, though. That is true. I am a sicko.
You couldn't do manufacturers if it's only two teams of 3 MPO and 3 FPO. It's not possible.
It could be
Discraft versus Innova. What are you talking about?
Oh, just Discraft versus Innova? Okay.
How is that going to be competitively entertaining? Innova doesn't stack
up. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that you have two things that people actually care about. You guys are throwing together. You guys are making best friends play against each other. Who
can't do like House of Disc versus Discraft or something like that?
But how many people not in the sport are going to be like, oh, Innova and Discraft, I know who those are, and I understand the rivalry.
That's not happening.
Oh, Simon Lizotte, I want to watch that happen.
That's not happening in disc golf, Gary. That's what I'm saying. My point is, you just got to get people to watch that actually know what disc golf is. And if you did Discraft versus Innova, that's something you could build around.
If you actually want to get people from outside of disc golf, you have to harness the international pride, but you have to make it a bigger event than a preamble to the European major. Like that's how the hockey just dominated the news, because they made their all-star game the 4 nations, and they got everybody in the US watching a hockey game that they would normally not watch because it's USA. beat Canada, right? Like, and to be fair, it is also at its best. Like, if the Europeans were way better than us at disc golf and we were playing them in an annual or biannual tournament with a chance to beat them, that would also bring people in, maybe, because it's
That'd
like
be
we can beat them at their sport.
Yeah.
That's what brings people
To
into the
Brodie's
World
point,
Cup.
to Brodie's point, if we really want to make this, we got to put Speed on one team and Kai Cenat on the other team.
It's true.
There you go.
And that would help as well. Any case, hey, let's not steal Hannah's thunder. Hannah, you got your microphone back and you got the W. Congratulations. Anybody you'd like to thank? Your microphone, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm just glad the technology's working this time, and it's a new setup too, slightly, but it all worked and there were no issues. And shout out to my IT husband for helping me set it up.
Shout out, smooth sailing. Well, anyways, that's been another episode of Debate Night. Finally back. We still got a few more episodes, so keep on tuning in and scan the QR code here on the screen if you want to submit topics. You've only got a few more weeks to get those topics submitted in, so make sure to do that. We will see you next week. Fingers crossed.